How's it going, everybody? Matt Borey here from the Jackpot Gents and the American Casino Guide book. Here with my friend Josh from fliptheswitch.com. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back with you.
Yes, always a pleasure. So today we're going to be talking about a new, well, it's got a new name, but it's a form of slot machines that's been around for a while. It's called perceived persistence. And if you are not familiar with this or you need any more information on perceived persistence slots, we have a fun little link here that you can go to fliptheswitch.com/pots, P-O-T-S. That link is down below. It's in the description and at the bottom of the video. And we use pots because that's what the biggest feature of this is filling up pots as you go along. We're going to go into this. And if you're not familiar with perceived persistence, it's any game that's got some kind of pot or lamp or anything that gets bigger or piggy bank. And it doesn't actually mean anything, which a lot of people don't understand. So you want to hop into this, Josh?
Sure. So let's take a step back before we talk about this element specifically and talk. This actually links to what we talked about the last time we were together. So we talked about reasons that slots are harder than they used to be. And money wasn't lasting as long. And one of the aspects to it is increased volatility, right? So it's
Mhm.
harder to win on slots. When volatility increases, one of the things that happens is that, they have to take money from some places to move it to others. And that means taking money from like line hits and moving it to like a bigger bonus, for instance. But that means that the base game to get to those bonuses really isn't as fun, right? There's not as many
Mhm.
big wins and line hits that get you excited. And so what's come out of this is some other elements that kind of keep the game more engaging. So now we kind of shift to this idea of persistence. So before we talk about perceived persistence, persistence as a whole on a slot machine is an element that lives on beyond the session. So the idea is that like when you cash out on older slot machines that didn't have persistence, everything was reset and the next player would sort of start from scratch. But as we know, there are definitely games out there that don't do this anymore. And it kind of goes in two directions. There's true persistence, and true persistence are examples of games where you build equity and that equity lives on even if the player cashes out. Think of your scarabs, your golden Egypts, games like that where there are the borders, the coins, whatever's being collected that can lead to something better happening in the future. Perceived
Buffalo
persistence.
Ascension is
Oh
another
yeah,
good
Buffalo
one where
Ascension
the
is a great
lines
example.
build up.
Exactly. So there's definitely examples where that evolution that's happening on the screen has value. Then there's also perceived persistence. And what perceived persistence is, there's a progression happening on the screen, but all it is for show. So it's really designed to sort of animate and have the machine looking like something's happening to keep players engaged in the game. So sort of the earliest examples of this would be things like 88 Fortunes and Dancing Drums with that pot in the middle. And the idea is that over time, as you get wilds, the wilds throw coins into the pot and the pot slowly fills up. That doesn't really tell you anything. It's not an example of the bonus is closer to happening because the coins are overflowing that pot. It's a little bit more of what's happened in the past. It's been a while since there's been a bonus, but that doesn't mean anything. As we know, the next spin can pick from any outcome that's available on
Mhm.
the machine, which means the odds of a bonus on that next spin is the same. But what has been determined over time on these games is that players really get drawn into these full coins and so forth. And what's happened is there's been an explosion of these perceived persistent elements. The biggest thing that's happened in the past couple of years has been the three pot, three bag, three whatever
Mhm.
element of things. So you have games like Goldfish Feeding Time Frenzy. You've got Food Eye Lian Land. People call that the bag game sometimes. You've got Big Hot Flaming Pots is a big one right now. Coin Trio,
Trio.
Piggy
Mhm.
Pennies, and then there's also a second version of that, right? All of
Yeah.
them have the three objects. Sometimes they now even have four. And the idea is that like each one is growing and filling up or doing whatever. But again, they have no actual indication of what's going to happen. It's really just a progression. And the question really that some people might ask, and I get asked, is, well, why would they do this if there's no actual value being built or anything there? It's because that's how they make the game feel more busy and interactive and interesting when there's less bonuses and things to pull you in and keep you engaged on the machine. And the reality is that even though the pay table says those don't mean anything, people go and chase the full bags, pots, whatever, because they think they're about to burst. And there's just a lot of people out there who don't do their homework or don't read the pay tables, and they kind of get pulled in. And the end result is that all of these games are showing up in the top performing games on independent research lists of what are
Mhm.
getting played the most. So we say we don't like them. We say we don't like more volatile machines. We don't like that the pots mean nothing, but we still play them as players. And that means they're going to make more of them because that's what's working right now.
Yeah, and it's in the industry, the general idea is what casinos want is they want people to spend, they call it seat time. The
Hmm.
longer you are playing a machine, that's the longer the seat time, the average seat time per slot machine, the better that is. Generally speaking, the better it's going to perform for the operators themselves. Because if you break it down really to the most simplest terms, a slot machine is just a computer that is programmed to pay out less money than it's taking in, and everything else is just bells and whistles just to get people to sit down. Because if it's programmed to pay out less than it takes in, the longer somebody plays on it in the long run, you can sit down at a slot machine and hit a jackpot and leave up. But in the long run, the longer you play a slot machine, the more likely you are to lose more money. So all of these bells and whistles and features and everything are just to get longer seat time for the operators. Because, if a machine doesn't perform well for the casino, if the casino's not making money on it, they're not going to keep it on the floor.
Right.
And I would have to say that this, like we said, it's all psychological thing. Because even though I know, and my dad knows that these pots building up doesn't mean anything. If you sit down and you see one, as the piggy bank as full as it'll go, or the stack of coins as high as they can go, it's just there's something in your lizard brain just makes you want to play it, even though you know not to. And
Right.
I would
And
say
there's
these.
okay,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things that's, interesting about it is like, there's always like these things that as players we sometimes fall into the trap of, oh, the bonus has taken so long to come out, it must be due, right? Or things like that. And this kind of leans into that psychology a little bit. And you sort of see the full pot and you're like, geez, it's been so long since I had a bonus. Well, like I just want to play until I get a bonus. And that keeps
Hmm.
you sitting in that seat, right? And
Hmm.
I've definitely had examples myself where, like goldfish feeding time's a great example. There's the three fish and they get bigger and they've slowly fill the fish bowls until the
Oh,
fish
and
bowl
then yeah, and
finally
then
cracks
it
open.
starts to crack and everything, and yeah.
Yeah, there's that really sort of evil drawing one where the eyeball's like popping out at you and the bowl's cracked like it's ready to go. And I'll sit and like I put $100 in and it's a 60 cent minimum bet and I'll just be playing just for the heck of it, just to see how long it takes to get a bonus, and I'll go $100 bonus, and it's like, geez, the bonus has got to be here somewhere. But the reality is that next wager means nothing more than the last one. It's the same odds of it happening. Just because you went 100 spins without a bonus doesn't mean you're due for one. So it does lean into that, and it's remarkably effective. People just react to those growing pots and so forth and just get drawn in. And so it's clearly working, which is why you're seeing it on so many slots now.
Yeah, but I think we should sort of take a step back here and talk about the history of it, because the reason it works so well is because there were originally slot machines like that you were saying, the actual persistence that, like, I think the original one was, oh, this was 20 years ago, before I could even gamble. The one with the King Kong would climb up the skyscraper. I can't remember the name, but that was like the original one. There was that one. There was one where it like filled pieces of a pie. And in those ones, you could actually get an advantage. There were professional slot players that would go around and only play the slot machines when it was close to hitting, because the higher that those stacked up, or whatever the persistence was, the banking feature, whatever those were, it would, the higher it was, the higher the payback would be until it reset.
Hmm.
And I think that there were a lot of professional gamblers because people didn't know about that. And then the general public finally started figuring that out. And then now the casinos, I don't know if bait and switch is the right word that you want to use, but like now that they realize that the general public was catching on to that, they've sort of pivoted, shall we say, and now they have this banking feature that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
not
think,
at that point it's not a banking feature, right? It's sort
yeah.
of like it's but yeah, no, it's definitely playing with what people think is happening. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing though is it's tying something that isn't happening with something that could happen, which is a lot of these three pot games. There are three different upgrades to these bonuses that happen, and so part of that's like getting people excited about the double and the triple bonus. So there's the element that does actually exist, which is the ability to do multiple upgrades to a bonus, which is sort of the truly new thing that's there in that,
Yeah.
that game design, right? And what kind of is part of what makes the game so interesting and fun. But then there's the thing that's not real at all. That's kind of pushing people. Oh yeah, you might be close to a double or a triple, right? Which is like I think what gets people even more excited about playing these games.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with these, the three pots we're talking about is, some there's a base bonus feature, and generally if you once you trigger the bonus, you're going to hit one of the three different colored pots. And like sometimes it'll give you like one of them will have make the reels bigger,
Hmm.
another one adds wilds, and another one gives you a chance at the progressives. I think is generally most of the way it works. But if you look at the big picture in casinos right now, if you look at all the most popular games that are in casinos that are doing very well right now, pretty much everything is perceived persistence, with the exception of the most what I think is the most popular game right now is the Huff and Puff series.
Right.
And then anything with fill in your word here, Link, Dragon Link, Lightning Link, Dollar Storm Link, all of these ones.
Dollar Store Mega Grand Link, right? Let's just add some words to the name. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The it's basically a lot of the Link games, they skew all of this all together, right? They have their own purpose and the benefits, and the chase is really the progressives and getting the hold and spin and that kind of thing. And so they kind of have their own drives that bring people in, and they're remarkably effective at doing that too. That's why these games have been on the floor for a decade now.
Oh
But you're
my God,
right.
it's been that long already?
It has, yeah. Lightning Link and Locket Link were sort of the first wave, and that was about yeah, I think 2014. So I think it's been a
Oh
decade now.
geez.
So, but yeah, if you look at if you so there are companies that actually keep track of the performance of games across the country and then do reporting. So EKG is one of them, and they recently released a report actually that talked about the effectiveness of perceived persistence games. They tend to outperform what's on the casino floor, and they tend to do so for a lengthy period of time, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing so many of them. Again, players are playing them for versus other games enough that the casinos are seeing the value in putting them on the floor. What's interesting is the true persistence games, which you would think that because people know that they have this equity and value, they would get played more, actually underperforms what's on the casino floor. And that's why you're not really seeing many of them right now, because there's that period of time, there was that golden era, I guess you would say, that second wave that happened a few years ago with the scarabs of the world, and everybody was sort of tinkering with these ideas, but ultimately in the long run they didn't outperform other things on the casino floor, and so they've just sort of walked away from those now. So now perceived persistence is kind of the driving force because that's what people are playing so much.
Yeah, well, one thing I've always noticed is because my dad and I spend a lot of time in casinos, more than any sane people should, uh, because of all the videos we're filming, and we always see there are still some of those real persistence games that you can get an advantage on, and we call them vultures because we see the same groups of people every day. Just doesn't matter what time we're there. We're there at 9 in the morning filming. We're there at 4 in the afternoon filming. You'll see the same people just circling the casino, checking all of those machines. So, that could be one reason why they aren't doing as well. But, it's fun. It's fun when you can find one of those in a great state and win a bunch of money on it. But, such is life. You always have the small group of people that ruins it for everybody. So,
Well, let's not forget the other aspect of it that I always laugh when I hear boop, 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 boop. Like when you hear them hitting all of the credit buttons to see which
yeah,
one has anything, and you just
yeah,
hear that over and over, and it's like, okay, I know what they're doing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the other challenge too is that like the fact that the persistence is the compelling element is that if people just don't find that element like engaging to sit down and play for a while,
Mm-hmm.
then because it has to work as a slot. It can't just be like it won't get into a playable state if no one is interested in playing it to begin with, right? And so like for me,
Yes.
I actually do enjoy sitting down and playing Scarab as a slot because when you get the bonus, for instance, the bonus is very healthy in terms of the amount of money you make.
Oh, yes.
50x or more bonus is not unusual on that game, and so that can be great. It's a hard bonus to get, but like I finally got it twice in within 2 weeks recently after not seeing it for a long time, and it was like, okay, I remember why this game was so hot. But yeah, definitely for the purposes of that, that's also another aspect that when you have people sort of staring down machines, you may be less
Mm-hmm.
inclined to want to play it.
Yeah.
That's someone who might want privacy or just want to relax and not have people watching what you're doing.
Yeah, I prefer the Diamond Mania, which is it's the same exact game as Scarab, but just a different skin. I just like it with that silly looking wizard.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes and this has definitely been proven true too. Sometimes the game math is good and so the under the hood design is good, but the graphic layer is different. Like Rake and Bacon was a clone of another game. It started out with different graphics and a different theme, but it was the piggy that got everybody excited, and now it's got a whole bunch of extras and sequels and so forth. So
Yeah. But yeah, that bonus that you're talking about in Scarab, it is hard to get. And I think one time I've re-triggered it. And
oh,
I've probably,
that's very difficult.
yeah. One time I re-triggered it, and one time I got five of the symbols,
Hmm.
all five. So on one on every reel. And it was, I think it started out as like normally it's like I think 5, 10 or 15, 10, 5, because you can choose your volatility. And I think it was like
Hmm.
30 or 50.
That's
And
gonna be nice, yeah.
that was a very nice bonus. But yeah, so anything else you want to touch on this? Oh, I guess yeah, if we have a link, Josh is the editor of fliptheswitch.com. Is that your title?
Yeah, so my title has nothing to do with the site itself, but my primary role is I edit and lead writer on the site. Yeah, so
Yeah, and if you go to fliptheswitch.com/pots, POTS, you can see the link down there below. We did that. We picked that name just because the pots fill up, and that'll show the collection of all of the articles that they have there on perceived persistence. So if you're not sure what we're talking about, definitely go ahead and check that out there, and you can get a lot more information. And if you're not familiar with fliptheswitch.com, that is the new educational wing of the Brian Christopher entertainment empire. So they're definitely not only is he a YouTube behemoth, but I really like that he's now helping educate casino patrons, because that was always me and my dad's thing originally. Is you can get more informed people playing the games, you can have more fun, and it's easier if your money lasts longer. So definitely check that website out. A lot of great information there.
absolutely. And the thing I'll note too is that one of the things we do is we answer a player question every single day. So if you have questions about these or other elements on a slot machine, don't hesitate to submit them. One of the things that's great about working, in the Brian Christopher universe now is that we know a lot of the companies that make these games, and so I have the ability to pass along these questions when we don't know the answer and get an answer from someone who's created these games, right? So
Mhm.
that's one of the best things about this, is that we're able to get answers directly from the source of the people who are putting these games together and what you should know.
Well, I would be very shocked if there was ever a question you didn't know the answer to, because I would say you are hands down the most knowledgeable man I know when it comes to slot machines.
Well, that's very kind of you, but I started by talking to them just like many of us did. So, you learn over time.
Mhm. All right. Well, Josh, thank you very much for joining us today. If people want to learn more about you or your work, where would they do that?
So please come join us at fliptheswitch.com. As I said a moment ago, we write content every single day. We post at least 2 articles daily. And we have some great additions coming very soon that's going to expand sort of the types of information we're offering. So definitely come check it out. And if you have a question, again, please submit it. We'd love to answer your questions.
Again, Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you.